very positive on emerging markets, and within that I'll include Asia. I think Japan is looking very interesting as well. You've had Abe being re-elected again, one of the longest-serving prime ministers in Japan post-war history. But I think everyone's going on about Abenomics and how that is a positive. Again, I don't doubt that. But I think where the more interesting story within Japan is at the corporate sector, and there's been a fundamental change in corporate governance there. Japanese corporations really are thinking about their asset structures, the balance sheet, and thinking about shareholder returns. At the same time, we have got very, very cheap valuations. Again, that looks to me on a risk-reward basis very, very compelling. The reality is where news and sentiment is particularly poor, that you see the valuation opportunities in Korea and in Russia. Korea is obviously, there's a lot of geopolitical unease around North Korea. In addition to that, you've got the corporate governance issues. Russia is another example. There's some political issues there as well. And all those negatives, I think, are fully reflected in share prices. That in itself creates the opportunities that we try and exploit. There are many things that keep me awake. A lot of people are talking about volatility and the fact that volatility is so low, and if it was to spike up, that they'll then unsettle markets. The reality is that people are talking about that, so I think those things are really kind of discounted. So that kind of comes back to what can we do within our portfolios. So we constantly revisit back to our stocks in our portfolios to reaffirm the value that we see in those stocks. And when we see that, then we can sleep easy. So what we're saying in the beginning of 2017 is that we're positive in the outlook for markets, and that's been proven right. We liked emerging markets and they have performed well. Digging down below that is potentially where we've missed a few opportunities. The kind of the correction in defensive quality stocks that we saw in the second half of 2016. We had expected that to continue into 2017. The reality that didn't happen. Those stocks become even more expensive. That's something that we didn't anticipate. This time last year, we're positive the outlook for emerging market equities. That remains the case. Share prices obviously have performed very well last year, so the valuation case is less compelling than it was this time last year. But saying that, I think relative to developed markets, the story is still the same. We are what we call value investors, and what that means is we try and buy stocks that are significantly cheap relative to their intrinsic value. A lot of what we try and do is understand why stocks have been dislocated from their underlying value. So we spend a lot of time understanding what's driven that, what the behavioural biases that have done that. And from that we can then take an assessment on whether that's reasonable or justified or not.